Childhood should be a time filled with fun and laughter.
She's just perfect.
But some children have nothing to smile about. A young woman wants a lover more than her daughter.
A sociopath. I would label Stacy as a sociopath.
Motherhood brings no joy to a disturbed woman.
Evil was awake, alive, and terrorizing this house.
And a single mom prefers partying to parenting.
Symbolically, she was completely getting him out of her life.
These deadly women lack a mother's instinct to protect and nurture. They bury their babies. For most mothers, the bond with her baby is sacred.
Oh, she's just perfect.
But for others, the love of a man
She was going to do anything in her power to keep him.
is more precious.
Some women were not meant to be mothers.
In Lancaster, California, on March 18th, 2009, a shocking crime occurs. A young mom is attacked in a park.
Emma?
And worse,
Emma?
her 18-month-old daughter is abducted.
Emma?
We had received a phone call at Homicide Bureau that there was a Amber Alert and an abduction up in the Antelope Valley in the Lancaster area.
I've been attacked. They've taken my baby.
She and Emma were at the park, and she was hit on the head, and Emma was taken, and she was possibly raped.
They've taken my baby. Emma!
It's a crime that puzzles police. There seems to be no motive. And the victim, 24-year-old Stacy Barker, doesn't have any enemies. She comes from a loving family who give the single mom all of their support from the day Emma is born.
Emma was cared for by her grandmother, Susan Barker, during the day while her mom, Stacy, went to work. Her mother, in fact, changed her working hours so that she could be home during the day to take care of Emma for Stacy,
Oh, she's just perfect.
and then went to work in the evenings and worked until the late hours of the night.
For months, Stacy is just that.
Both Susan and her husband said she was a great mother.
According to co-workers, she was very good with Emma. Emma was everything to her.
But the shine of motherhood soon fades in favor of a little fun.
A lot of young women that find they're pregnant think, oh, having a baby will be so wonderful and romantic.
Can't you hear Emma? What are you all dressed up for?
I've got a date.
You're not going out again.
But after reality sets in, the 2 a.m. feedings and the diaper changes and not being able to go out and party because they have to take care of their baby, the luster wears off.
Stacy wants a good time.
Hardly ever home.
She's very uncaring, very narcissistic,
I won't be late, I promise.
and very self-centered, very selfish.
I'm not sure why Stacy even had Emma. She essentially dumped her on her parents.
Stacy! Stacy! Stacy!
Stacy wanted more and more and more freedom. Freedom to go out, to party, to date, to be with her friends.
Party girl Stacy is having a good time everywhere except at home.
Great, see you soon. What?
You can't leave Emma on her own like this.
She's fine.
No, she's not. You have to take more responsibility.
Oh my God, seriously, Mom?
Stacy!
And her mother is reaching her breaking point.
Stacy saw the world in terms of what the world could do for her, not what she was responsible for. And she didn't like having responsibilities.
It progressively got worse, and it got to the point where she would go out, she wouldn't come back until 2, 3 in the morning.
When did you get in?
When I wanted to?
And at some point, Susan said, this isn't healthy, and she began to confront Stacy about it.
You're still drunk.
Don't start. I gotta go.
While Sue picks up the slack of caring for Emma, Stacy picks up a new man.
He was a young man in his 20s, single. He worked 2 jobs, but he liked to party.
It's beautiful.
Stacy's main concerns in life were pleasing whatever guy she was with.
And for this guy, she'll do anything.
Who's that?
My mom?
Know that.
My daughter? Emma?
It is not common for a woman to put anyone before the needs of her child. But Stacy had no problem with it.
You got a daughter?
Yeah.
Oh, I ain't good with kids.
It doesn't change anything. You don't need to be good with kids. You just need to be good with me.
She was falling in love with him. And she was going to do anything in her power to prove this love for him, even if it meant somewhat neglecting Emma.
Stacy falls hard for her new boyfriend.
Brad!
But the feeling isn't mutual.
He liked his life the way it was. He wasn't financially ready to take on a family, and he enjoyed being single and living that single life.
He purposely chose not to get close to Emma because if his relationship with Stacy ended, then he would disappoint Emma also, and he didn't want to do that.
Stacy is torn between her 2 loves,
In her eyes, Emma was basically in the way.
and the choice she makes is inconceivable. March 18th, 2009, Lancaster, California. 24-year-old single mom, Stacy Barker, looks like she's ready for work,
Called in sick? Really? Yeah.
but she has no intention of going.
She decided, I don't feel up to going to work, but she obviously didn't tell her parents this and the reasons why. And she dressed as if she was going to work, but then she went over to his apartment.
Back at home, baby Emma is being looked after by Stacy's mom, Sue, and she has had enough.
Poor Mommy is in big trouble when she gets home. One more for Nana.
I think Stacy was narcissistic, selfish, and immature.
Stacy's boyfriend makes it clear he doesn't want to be a father to Emma. And the dark depths of Stacy's desire are exposed.
They talked in general about their relationship and where he wanted it to go.
Leave him alone.
And I believe she felt that Emma was jeopardizing her relationship.
I'm sorry.
Well, sorry isn't good enough. This is the 2nd time you have made me late for work. You are going to have to get alternative childcare arrangements.
God.
Stacy went home and had the bad argument with the mother, and we believe that's when she said, I've got to make a decision here. And the decision she made was a fatal mistake.
My
not you, it's my boyfriend. She's never happy.
Welcome to motherhood.
Mom.
Emma was a burden. Stacy wanted her freedom. Emma had to go.
What? Eat it. Eat your food.
She had gotten into the argument with her mom, so she wanted to leave the house. So she packed up Emma and she told her brother Nick, who was at home, that she was going to take Emma to the park.
I'm taking Emma to the park.
But in fact, instead of taking Emma to the park, sometime after leaving the house, she had given Emma a dose of some type of medication.
To solve her childcare problems, she gives Emma a triple dose of an adult cough medicine.
I think Stacy overdosed Emma to kill her.
Emma, open up. Open up. It's really yummy. Have some more. Good girl.
And it didn't work. So then she had to suffocate her herself.
Emma had marks on her face and her nose was bleeding to indicate that there was some pressure involved in this suffocation.
It is the coldest of killings.
She has the argument with her mother, and she decided, I've got to get rid of Emma. That's premeditation.
Stacy Barker murdered her 18-month-old daughter, Emma, because the attention of a boy she liked was more important than being Emma's mother.
Stacy now needs to get rid of her little girl.
When Emma's body was found, it was found in the shape of her car seat. That means that after Stacy killed her, she drove around with her in the car, probably at least 5 hours. That's how long it would take for rigor mortis to set in.
I have not seen anything like this in my career, for a mother to take the life of their child and actually show no care, no remorse. Just to discard her like she's a piece of garbage is just incomprehensible. I can't even imagine. She basically discarded her like trash.
Stacy, calm and collected, now contrives an alibi for her rape and Emma's abduction.
She injured herself in a way to make it believable that she had been abducted and assaulted.
She went to great lengths to stage this story to make it look like Emma had been kidnapped and that she had been raped.
Even after murdering her daughter, Stacy tries to draw attention and sympathy to herself.
They've taken my baby!
It was always about Stacy.
Her boyfriend dials 911 and arrives at the scene before the police.
They took my baby.
Who took your baby, ma'am?
But when they check Stacy's phone records,
Come with us.
they find that at the time of the attack, she wasn't in the park, but traveling on a freeway.
And
Her lies exposed,
in the back of the car.
Stacy tries another tack.
And I don't.
Without Stacy's help, we never would have found Emma until the high grass had been cut.
Come with us.
And they took Emma. They took my baby. And I don't know.
Stacy's defense was that it was an accident and that Emma had actually suffocated on a plastic baggie.
Stacy told the police she tried to cover up an accidental death because she didn't want people thinking she was a bad mother. Stacy knew she was a bad mother.
Through this entire investigation, Stacy never once showed any remorse. I would label Stacy as a sociopath.
On May 24th, 2011, Stacy Barker is convicted of first-degree murder and child abuse.
To Stacy, motherhood seemed more like a life sentence than a blessing.
Sentenced to 25 years to life, she will be eligible for parole when she is 51.
When Stacy gets out of prison, she'll be too old to have children. That's a blessing.
When childhood trauma haunts an adult,
She turns that darkness around on the people she loves.
the bad memories can be transferred across generations.
Kelly concluded that her life was hell, and this was the appropriate ending for it.
And sometimes the consequences are unthinkable.
This horrible tragedy was completely preventable.
In East Hartford, Connecticut, in 1999, devout Baptists Kelly Silk
Pastor Prigg's going to say a prayer for us.
and her husband Charles are busier than most parents. They have 4 children, and the 3 youngest are all under the age of 3.
What we're about to receive make us truly thankful.
Amen.
Kelly appeared to be a normal young mother. She was physically attractive. She had friends, and she belonged to a church, and she was involved in different things.
Kelly homeschools 8-year-old Jessica, as well as caring for her toddlers and baby.
I like this one, please.
No, I'm reading this one.
Hey, Mom, look what I did.
But Kelly is struggling to cope.
I told you to...
And when she cracks, the children suffer.
Right off in the investigation, a ruler was found, and it was inscribed with the term rod of correction. Did a complete, thorough search of the home. And in that process, I found homemade clubs, and these also had biblical passages inscribed on them.
Kelly and her husband were guided in the discipline of their children by taking the Bible literally.
It was very inappropriate and just wrong.
The corporal punishment happens behind closed doors, but the scars of the abuse can't be hidden.
Neighbors had told us that they had observed that the children all had bruising and marks on their bodies.
Who's there?
The Department of Child and Youth Services comes over to the house,
What do you want?
talks to the parents, and you know what? They leave. No problem.
My children are fine, and I'm busy.
They weren't allowed within the house,
I said I'm busy!
and after a few efforts to investigate, which were all denied, they closed out the case with nothing.
It's not just the children in need of help. Kelly is suffering as well.
Jessica did describe to us a pattern of her mother experiencing depression and emotional problems with each of her siblings' births.
With the birth of every child, Kelly's postpartum depression becomes more severe.
No, please, just leave me alone!
Oftentimes we see in women suffering from postpartum depression, they become resentful of their children. It's impossible for them to look at their baby and not see the source of their intense psychological pain.
Kelly's depression becomes overwhelming. But she doesn't seek medical help. The born-again Christian seeks spiritual guidance.
So Kelly does the right thing, really. Kelly reaches out. She reaches out to the pastor of the church.
How have you been?
I need help. I'm overwhelmed.
I think I'm getting worse. I just can't handle it anymore. My friend says I should see a psychiatrist.
I'm living in darkness. You know what they tell her?
Oh, Kelly, you have the church. God will show you the way.
You don't think I need medication?
Oh, Kelly, medication will only cloud your memory. What you need to do is pray harder to God.
Pray more. Prayer, prayer, prayer. That's gonna help you.
I've been arranging this for the weekend. I think this will help if you come along.
She goes back home, gets on her knees. But it's not enough.
Okay.
You cannot pray away depression.
Without professional intervention, her depression deepens. It makes Kelly feel like a failure who doesn't deserve to live.
There was a history of suicide attempts. It's clear that the family did not fully understand the needs and the depth of Kelly Silk's emotional issues.
Mom?
Kelly is following the same path that she watched her own mother take.
When she was 7 years old, her mother commits suicide in the bathtub.
Mom.
And this has a detrimental effect on her psyche.
Mom?
And this is where the darkness starts to invade her. It starts to settle on her, and she can't escape it. She just can't get away from it.
Mom.
Essentially what happened at that moment, her mother taught her inadvertently how to deal with depression. Kill yourself.
Mom!
In her depressed state, adult Kelly keeps thinking of her mother's suicide. She obsessively talks to friends about it.
For years and years and years, she's asking everybody she can, why? This tells me that she might have blamed herself for this.
She spent a good portion of her life wondering that and questioned why her mother didn't kill her as well at the time.
Her dark thoughts aren't just putting Kelly's life in danger. Kelly's grip on reality is slipping. In East Hartford, Connecticut, in 1999, mother of 4, Kelly Silk, is suffering severe postpartum depression and is on the brink of insanity.
No, please, just leave me alone!
Kelly had 4 children. The youngest was 3 months. She was overwhelmed and clinically depressed.
On the night of June 10th, Kelly reaches her breaking point.
We'll never know exactly what caused Kelly to cross the line from trying to keep it together to totally letting go. But my guess is that it's probably a situation maybe with the infant sleeping next door. We know that the infant had some bruising to his body and around his neck. That'd be typical for parents who lose control. Pick him up by the neck and squeeze him by the neck.
Once Kelly loses control, she can't stop.
He's awoken by the knife penetrating into him. He gets up, he gets out of bed in a daze.
Innocent eyes witness the nightmare.
Jessica told us that she had heard a commotion in the master bedroom, that she went in the room and saw her mother stabbing her father to death and that he collapsed.
She'd start stabbing the little tiny girl.
Kelly stabs 8-year-old Jessica 61 times.
So Jessica turns and starts running away, stab wounds, bleeding. Kelly runs out and gets the gasoline. And this is where the real horror begins.
While Jessica huddles, helpless, on the floor, Kelly prepares to burn her daughter alive.
This was chaos. A bloody madhouse. Evil was awake, alive, and terrorizing this house.
I mean, the rage and the lack of control that one would be feeling at that point in time in order to go through with something like that.
Kelly was able to stab her own daughter, pour gasoline on her, because Kelly was out of her mind.
A mind that can't bear to live any longer.
The imagery that was created by Kelly of the violence, the stabbing, I can't help but think that Kelly concluded that her life was hell, that it had been made hell, and this was the appropriate ending.
As the house begins to burn, Kelly's tortured life is snuffed out. She suffocates from the smoke, as do 2 of her younger children.
Jennifer and Jonah Silk shared a bedroom. They both died of smoke inhalation and burn injury.
I'm hoping that they were asleep, and I'm hoping that it was just the smoke inhalation took them in a painless way. I really hope that they didn't suffer.
None suffered more than 8-year-old Jessica, but incredibly, she is still alive.
She arrived at her neighbor's house with gaping wounds, bleeding, and literally on fire. The first thing that was done was the neighbors had her roll on the ground and extinguish the fire.
Jessica had a lot to deal with that night, and she'll be dealing with it the rest of her life. She's going to need help.
Call an ambulance.
There is one more life saved. Against all odds, 2-month-old Joshua is alive.
He suffered some smoke inhalation and had some bruising to his neck, but gladly he survived the incident.
Her husband, Charles, 2.5-year-old Jennifer, and 17-month-old Jonah don't.
For the initial officers arriving, they came upon a scene that is hell, a hell created by human beings.
It was one of the worst scenes that we've had to deal with over the course of time that I've been here.
To the outside world, Kelly seemed like an average mom and housewife. She hid her depression and perceived weakness until she snapped.
When people cry out for help, I think it's important that we give them all the help we can give them.
This horrible tragedy was completely preventable. Because Kelly didn't get the psychiatric care she desperately needed, almost everyone in her family perished.
A child's boundless imagination is a source of great delight, but it can also conjure up fears.
He would not go into that bedroom. He never went into that bedroom.
Occasionally, imagination is not necessary.
That little boy did, in fact, have some sort of premonition.
Some monsters are real.
Symbolically, she was completely getting him out of her life, her mind, everything. Poof, gone.
In the suburban streets of Lorain, Ohio, day-to-day struggles lie behind many doors.
Where are you? I'm in here.
For 26-year-old Nicole Dyer, it is the grind of single motherhood.
Nicole was a somewhat distant, messy mother. She was very distant from her family, from her friends.
Jacob, this is your room. No. Don't be silly, Jacob. No.
At the time of his birth, 4-year-old Jacob brings delight to his mother's life.
Jacob, stop it.
But the baby joy is fading.
As Jacob got older, she definitely got more distant, so she was starting to see how much the responsibility changed as her child grew.
Come in and have a look.
Motherhood is no longer a tonic, no longer a distraction from a painful past.
Remind me again what's so great about being a mother? You don't mean that. Yeah, I do.
She had a very difficult time fitting in, if you will, because of what had happened to her and what she looked like from having been burned.
22 years earlier, Nicole's little brother accidentally changes the course of her life.
Wow, a lighter.
She was playing with her brother, and her brother was playing with a lighter, and it caught her nightgown on fire. It burned 75% of her body, and by the time she graduated from high school, she had about 50 surgeries.
Surgery and disfigurement dominate Nicole's childhood and adolescence.
The kids called her Freddy Krueger. She was tormented endlessly by children. Kids can be cruel.
Children are not as resilient as we think they are. And a child who is repeatedly teased by their peers for their appearance over a course of years is going to emerge from it damaged.
As an adult, Nicole is determined to have the fun she missed out on as a child. She constantly leaves little Jacob with teenage babysitters.
As promised.
Cool. Hey, you don't mind if we bring a couple of friends over here?
Nah, that's fine.
She wanted to party as often as possible. Go out with friends, drink, and do whatever young people do.
Cool. I'll see you guys later.
She had a difficult time finding sitters, so she would find these teenage kids in the neighborhoods, give them beer, wine, cigarettes to stay with her child while she went out for the evening.
Jacob, I said let go. Stop being silly. Let go.
So as time went on, the child did not want her to leave. Probably because he didn't know who she was leaving them with.
Hey, little man. How you doing? Hey, little man.
The absent mother also leaves special instructions to the teen sitters.
Come on, you need to calm down. You need to take your medicine.
How to calm the toddler at bedtime.
Open your mouth.
As opposed to traditional methods of putting a child to sleep, reading a book, singing a lullaby, Nicole took the route of prescription medications. The babysitters said that Nicole would often give them a codeine elixir to put Jacob to sleep. When they gave Jacob the medication, he would throw it up, and they wouldn't give it to him anymore.
The codeine is prescribed for an adult. Nicole is virtually poisoning her 4-year-old son.
Codeine is a narcotic. This is a very dangerous medication to give to a child. It causes sedation. It depresses the central nervous system. It causes sleepiness. And one of the very common side effects is nausea.
Mom, I just don't know how much more I can take.
Jacob's side effects add even more fuel to Nicole's growing resentment.
You're not listening to me. I don't know how much more of this I can take. I'm tired.
He started to become ill quite often with gastrointestinal problems.
I'm tired. I can't do this anymore.
She had, on numerous occasions, had to take him to an emergency room.
Jacob's sickness doesn't soften Nicole. It hardens her.
Nicole did not want to be a mother.
Oh, disgusting. He just threw him up again. I've got to go.
She desperately wants to dispose of her burden.
Instead of putting her child up for adoption or even having her mother raise Jacob, she simply destroyed him.
In Lorain, Ohio, 2003, a soothing bath is not enough to wash away Nicole Dyer's troubles. Since being scarred in a fire as a child, the 28-year-old single mom has struggled with life and now motherhood.
As Jacob got older, she got more distant. She was very unemotionless and not animated at all.
Her 4-year-old son, Jacob, doesn't fit her lifestyle.
Nicole did not want to face the responsibility of raising Jacob. He was in part an albatross around her neck.
Nicole wants to cleanse her life, but water is not enough. She turns to what she knows best.
Without question, the most significant event in Nicole's life was the fact that she was severely burned at 4. It changed everything.
Fire and flames have consumed her life. And on August 27th, 2003, they will again. But this time, it is not Nicole who is in danger.
Yes, my son's in there. He's only 4 years old. He's in the back room.
But the distraught mom is giving firefighters confusing messages.
She kept telling them that her son was in the house.
Wait, he's in the living room.
She would say in a back room, she would say in the living room.
He's upstairs. Upstairs? He's upstairs. Yes, I'm sure he's upstairs.
As firemen search for Jacob, they notice something strange.
She told the firefighters that she had gone in at least on 3 different occasions to try to go in and save Jacob.
I was taking a nap and I woke up and there was smoke everywhere. So I ran to my son's room and I tried to open the door, but it was hot and I couldn't open it. And I really
She
tried
had no soot on her whatsoever.
She did not have any of the traditional signs that somebody had been inside of a burning home. Her clothes weren't disturbed at all. She did not smell strongly of smoke, and she did not have any soot anywhere on her body.
But suspicions are too late for the young boy. He's found in his bedroom, the room that he always feared to enter, as if a tragic premonition comes true.
The body was found on the bed. He was curled up in the fetal position, and his puppy was found curled up below the bed.
A tiny life cut short with his best friend.
There was only left side of his face that was actually left, that wasn't entirely burned off. The rest of his body was pretty much charred and melted to the box spring of the bed in that room.
Retired Ohio police detective David Garcia says evidence at the grim scene lead investigators to believe the fire was no accident.
The fire department advised us that they suspected that the house fire had been set purposely. The fire investigators determined from the charring on the floor that gasoline had been poured in a trail from the bedroom, across the threshold, through the dining room, and through the living room. There were hardwood floors. And the fire had left impressions on the flooring that they were able to determine that there were large amounts of gasoline that had been trailed and poured out of the bedroom, through the house, up to the front door.
She never tried to save that child. She wanted to destroy him.
Fire once ruined her life. Now Nicole hopes it will give her freedom.
A lot of women aren't meant to be mothers and they grin and bear it and they're fine. Some not so much.
But the freedom is short-lived. Nicole is the #1 suspect.
Nicole didn't exactly help her own case when, the night of the funeral, she was seen out dancing and singing karaoke. Not too smart. Nicole couldn't even fake it.
Nicole is arrested, and her story that the house fire is an accident is soon put to rest. Jacob was dead before the fire started.
If Jacob had been alive during the fire and died as a result of smoke inhalation, his blood carbon monoxide levels would be sky high, and there would have been evidence of soot throughout his airways. None of that was found. And in these cases, there's only one motive. It's to destroy evidence.
The tub was full of water, so there was a possibility that she could have drowned him. There was a possibility that she could have suffocated him. Any number of ways that she could have used to kill her child, ultimately, we never were able to determine.
Despite uncertainty of the method, in 2004, Nicole Ann Dyer is convicted of murder and sentenced to death.
The jury took only 2.5 hours to convict her on 10 counts that she had been indicted on. I'm not ashamed to say that I literally burst out crying because I felt so relieved. I felt like I was literally battling Satan himself.
In 2008, due to a trial error, her sentence is overturned. Rather than face a retrial, Nicole pleads guilty in return for a lesser sentence. Life in prison, no chance of parole.
There are so many people out in the world that long to have children that can't and go through a difficult process of adoption and all these things. Here, this perfectly normal, healthy, happy boy no longer lived.
What is clear is that Nicole did not want to be a mother. Fortunately, she never will again.
These deadly women turned from nurturing moms to murderers. Stacy Barker suffocated her young daughter to pursue love. Kelly Silk blamed her family for her depression. And Nicole Dyer sacrificed her son so she could party. There was nothing motherly about these three women. They put their needs before their families. They bury their babies. Childhood is meant to be a time of innocence.
We watch children play Little League. We watch them color pictures in front of us. How can that child take another life?
For a 10-year-old girl, killing is just another game.
It was no surprise to me that Mary began killing. The only surprise is that she did it so soon.
A schoolyard plot ends in murder without mercy.
She started reciting the Lord's Prayer. Obviously, she knew she was going to die.
And teenage passion explodes in a bloody rampage.
I will prove to you how much I love you by killing my grandparents.
These are deadly women who are not yet women. They are the Youngbloods. Northern England, late 1960s. The industrial city of Newcastle is about to lose its innocence. And one mother's life will be destroyed.
My son Martin was 4.5. He was happy, bundle of fun, laughed all the time.
June Richardson, remembering the son that went out to play and never came home.
He was my first child. And used to run around the house singing We All Live in a Yellow Submarine. That was his favourite song. And he was just a lovely little chap.
One afternoon in May 1968, a construction worker makes a shocking discovery. Martin Brown's tiny body lying lifeless on the floor of a derelict house.
Get an ambulance, man. Get an ambulance!
A knock came on the door, and it was one of the women from up the street. She said, Martin's been hurt, and that's all she said.
June races to the scene, confronting a mother's worst nightmare.
And he was just white, lifeless. There was a bit of blood trickling down his face. I knew he was dead then.
The autopsy shows no marks on the body or evidence of poisoning. His death is ruled accidental. Only one person knows this isn't true. An angel-faced girl, age 10. Mary Bell is Martin Brown's killer.
While other 10-year-old children are out playing with dolls, having sleepovers with their friends, picnics, amusement parks, Mary Bell is killing.
Crime writer M. William Phelps has studied Mary's case closely. He can see why no one would suspect a child.
We watch children play Little League. We watch them color pictures in front of us in a coloring book. How can that child take another life? It's just unfathomable.
Ex-FBI profiler Candice DeLong is also surprised. Normally, little girls just don't kill.
Young female killers are very rare. We see it more in male killers who will focus on killing animals and grow up to kill people.
But young girls can be much more dangerous.
Young female killers, sometimes they kill animals, but generally they'll go for people a lot sooner than little boy killers will.
When Martin Brown runs into Mary Bell on a sunny May afternoon, he has no reason to fear her. Martin thinks he's going to play a game.
She knelt him down, she put her hands around his neck. She told him she was trying to make his throat better. And she strangled him.
It doesn't take much pressure at all. As a matter of fact, the younger the child, the easier it is to do.
Forensic pathologist Janis Amatuzio knows just how Mary was able to kill without being detected.
Sometimes, if suffocation or strangulation are done gradually or lightly, there may be very few external marks.
Mary gets away with murder. But does a young child realize what they've done?
A child's personality and brain are still developing, so they are going to lack the ability to fully understand what they're doing. They may understand that they're killing, but not why or the consequences, that the person they're killing is not going to wake up.
Mary seems to understand death all too well. She makes a macabre visit to Martin's grieving mother.
About 2 days after, a knock came at the door. And it was Mary Bell standing at the door.
Hello, Mrs. Richardson.
And she said, I've come to see Martin. And I just turned around and says, I'm sorry, darling, but Martin's dead.
Oh, no.
Oh, she says, I know he's dead. She says, I want to see him in his coffin.
What turns a 10-year-old into a killer? Mary carries many more dark secrets than the death of Martin Brown. And she wants people to know.
She tells kids in school, she even tells a family member, but no one seems to believe her.
She wrote a diary where she actually drew the way Martin was lying in the house. And she put on, I killed Martin Brown, you'll never catch me.
She also writes an eerie message. I murder so that I may come back. Mary will be back. Something is driving her to kill again.
I believe that Mary knew that killing was wrong, but she chose to do it anyway.
She's just kind of putting her toes in the water, if you will. She's just testing the water. She wants to kill. She's developed the instinct to kill.
Mary Bell watched all the grief of my grief, and then she goes out a few months after and does it all over again.
The city of Newcastle in northern England has a killer in its midst. No one suspects a 10-year-old girl, Mary Bell. But Mary isn't like the other children playing on the streets. Her home life is dark and sadistic.
The mother was a well-known prostitute in the town. Mary, at an early age, begins to see her mother performing sexual acts. And many of the sexual acts that she performed were violent sexual acts.
Betty Bell was 17 when she gave birth to Mary. She made many attempts to abandon her child and even tried to poison her with pills.
Mary became a killer because of the horrible things she was subjected to at the hands of someone who was supposed to love her. Mary's mother made her the killer that she became.
A month after getting away with the murder of Martin Brown, Mary is preparing to kill again.
Mary Bell was known to be a bully with other children. She was just the kind of kid she used to have to be top dog.
One girl barely escapes a game that goes too far. Mary's next target won't be so lucky.
We just couldn't believe he was only 3. Blonde hair, blue eyes, beautiful little thing.
Mary finds 4-year-old Brian Howe playing in the street. This time she has a friend with her, 13-year-old Norma. Once again, she strangles her victim.
Imagine a 3 or 4-year-old gasping for air, kicking and screaming, trying everything he could do to survive. I can tell you that strangulation is not a fun way to die.
Supported by a partner in crime, Mary becomes much more violent.
What's different about the second murder is Mary begins to develop her signature. She begins to develop a way that she's gonna now start to kill and leave her mark on her victims.
She decided to cut him. She actually cut her initials. She cut her M and N in Mary Norma.
Serial killers leave all kinds of the trademarks at a crime scene because they want to stage a cat and mouse with the cops, number one. Number two, they want to get caught.
Mary leaves one more horrific calling card, a clue about a terrible secret in her life.
She tried to cut his little private parts off. It's just totally unbelievable.
When Mary killed little boys, as we know, she also appeared to be sexually involved with the body. This is all recreating the terrible crime that was done to her.
Mary's mother, Betty Bell, had done more than expose her young daughter to violent sexual acts.
She looks lovely.
She had involved her in them.
In some cases, she was invited into it and made to perform sexual acts herself as a child, some very vile sexual acts.
Come on. Sit down. Sit down.
Mary made the statement, "I like to hurt things weaker than me." In hurting things weaker than her, she was recreating when she was the weak one being hurt by an adult, either sexually or physically.
Mary's strange behavior is starting to be noticed. As Brian Howe's tiny coffin is carried out of his house, a policeman sees a familiar face. It's Mary Bell, smiling. The unthinkable is now becoming possible. Could this 10-year-old be the killer?
Children differ from adults when they kill in that they rarely cover up their crimes well, and they don't generally have the cunning and guile to fool a lot of people about what they did.
Mary's friend Norma admits the murder to police.
Into the house.
Mary won't confess so easily. But the evidence is mounting.
Where have you seen that?
Written admissions, drawings of Martin Brown's crime scene, and the bloody M carved into Brian Howe's stomach. Police have a case. June Richardson is there in court for the judgment of her son's killer.
She just sat there and she smiled and danced and turned her head round asking for sweets. I just couldn't believe this person had destroyed my life, and she was laughing.
Mary is sentenced to lifetime detention. But because of her age, the judge orders it to be reconsidered as she grows older. The court never hears the details of Mary's family life.
All the things that Mary's mother did to her, trying to overdose her with tranquilizers, abandoning her, and then eventually involving her in sex acts with her clients, her prostitution clients, basically were the underpinnings of creating a monster. The only big question regarding this case is, why wasn't Mary's mother put in prison for the rest of her life?
After 12 years in juvenile institutions, Mary is deemed safe to be released on parole. Today, she has a new identity and lives in anonymity. She also has a child of her own. She has never offended again.
I think she should have served the rest of her life in prison. And I certainly disagree with her being able to have children or grandchildren. I don't know if you know, but it is Mother's Day today. And I'm missing a Mother's Day card.
A young murderer doesn't start killing out of the blue. It's hard to accept the warning signs from a child, but missing them can be deadly. Fayetteville, Georgia. A quiet, sleepy city of God-fearing folk.
One of the neat things about living here is just to see how people have a love for God.
Local Reverend Glenn Stringham tends to a tight-knit Baptist congregation. When something is amiss, he finds out fast. In August 2004, it came in a phone call from a concerned parishioner.
She called me on the phone. She said, Glenn, she says, I don't know what's going on, but something has to be happening at the colliers. I've been trying to call them. I can't raise them. I'm not sure what happened, but something's going on.
Carl and Sarah Collier are in their 70s. A kindly couple who rarely miss a Sunday in church.
Both of them very outgoing, very helpful. If we were going somewhere, they were first on the scene. They didn't wait for somebody to ask them. They were first to help.
Reverend Stringham's congregation are about to face a test of faith and forgiveness. The Colliers have been found brutally murdered in their home, stabbed over 20 times each.
This crime scene in particular was probably the most bloody, horrifying, violent crime scene I've ever seen in my life.
Adding to the horror, the identity of one of the killers. It's the victim's granddaughter, Holly Harvey. She is 15 years old.
Holly is one of the most dangerous teenage offenders I'm aware of.
She was not a Sunday school girl. She was not a girl that would adhere to the Collier's rules. Holly wanted to do what Holly wanted to do, irregardless of any rules and regulations set forth by the Colliers.
Author Dale Hudson needed to know, what turns a teenager into a killer? In researching a book on the case, Dale soon discovers that Holly Harvey's problems began at home.
Her mother and her father had divorced at an early age. Holly was left to the care of her mother. There were a lot of parties. There was a lot of inappropriate social behavior, a lot of immoral behavior, and Holly was pretty much left to herself.
It only gets worse when Holly's mother is jailed on drug charges. The Colliers do what they think is right and take in their wayward granddaughter. But the strict rules of a retired Baptist couple are not for her.
She was not a child that was going to be obedient. She was accustomed to living her own life. Holly's mother, Carla, allowed her to smoke marijuana. Carla allowed her daughter to live a promiscuous lifestyle without any boundaries.
It's a lifestyle that's incubating a killer.
Although there are plenty of sullen teenagers, not all of them have the childhood history that Holly did. Holly was hell-bent for a path of destruction starting much earlier in her life. This was in Holly's soul long before the night it happened.
Boiling with anger and resentment, Holly finds a soulmate, 16-year-old Sandy Ketchum.
There were a lot of similarities between Holly and Sandy. They both grew up without the parental guidance that most children get. They both grew up in a dysfunctional family. They had been abandoned by their parents and left to their own. They sought solace and they found comfort in each other.
Sandy and Holly are inseparable. They take drugs together and begin a sexual relationship. Holly is now on a collision course with her conservative grandparents. It will end in catastrophe.
For many teenagers, every relationship is a matter of life and death. They must have it or they will die. Sometimes that's taken to an extreme.
Age 77 and 73, Carl and Sarah Collier are at their wits' end. Their 15-year-old granddaughter, Holly, lives under the Colliers' roof, but not under their control.
I think it had to do with the fact that her grandparents said, look, you're in our house, we do want you to live by the rules, and she didn't want to live by the rules.
Holly's drug taking is a problem. So is her lesbian lover, Sandy. Old-fashioned discipline is met with frightening threats.
They were at a loss of what to do. Even when Holly begins to threaten them and say that I'm going to kill you, they still could not imagine that their 14-year-old grandchild, the one that they had loved and nurtured, would be saying things like that to them.
Most children, teenagers, do not say, I want to kill you or I will kill you. As hard as it is for a parent or a grandparent to listen to that, they must act on it for the benefit of the child and to save their own life.
The Colliers can't accept the warning signs. They respond with a threat of their own, sending her to a children's home. Holly is cornered.
Holly's first and immediate thought was, then I'll be separated from Sandy. I'll be separated from the person that I love the most.
The most important part of her life is at risk.
She was not going to let that relationship die. And anything that got in the way of that relationship, she was determined to get rid of, including the Colliers.
A terrible urge is building inside this 15-year-old. She enlists her girlfriend, Sandy, in a shocking plot.
I will prove to you how much I love you by killing my grandparents.
Sandy. On the eve of the killing, Sandy sneaks into Holly's bedroom, and their deadly plan takes shape.
Part of Holly's plan for murder was to compose a to-do list. On her forearm, she wrote 4 words. These were her cue words for murder: kill, keys, money, and jewelry.
The to-do list that Holly wrote on her arm indicates a level of extreme detachment from the violence that was about to happen.
Because Sandy was already there and already involved, Holly gave her a knife.
Holly knows the smell of marijuana will lure her grandparents downstairs.
She instructed Sandy to hide behind the bed. It would be an ambush of 2 with a large butcher knife against a defenseless and an aged couple.
As the Colliers investigate, Holly springs her trap, stabbing her grandmother in the back. What she doesn't count on is Carl Collier fighting back.
Carl wrestled Holly to the bed and was able to subdue her.
Carl Collier desperately fights for survival with his own granddaughter.
Holly has a big, bloody knife. Carl Collier only has his hands for defense. She cuts the phone cord. Holly stabs him several times.
Holly isn't finished.
Sandy says to Holly, your grandmother's alive. Maybe we can get help for her. No, she needs to die. The bitch will die. She begins to stab her repeatedly, over and over again, until she is assured that her grandmother is dead.
Dripping in blood, the two young girls stand in a scene of shocking devastation.
It was unimaginable, the most horrifying thing that anyone had to have stepped into.
I think the fact that Holly chose to use a knife for the killings speaks of her disregard for life and her hatred and rage. That's a hands-on crime, which is hard to understand because these are people that were trying to help her. Holly didn't want anybody's help. Holly was angry.
Sarah had 35 stab wounds, and Carl had 23. When I see that many wounds, I think about rage. That's many more wounds than you need to cause somebody's death. And it says to me that an individual was either on drugs, their mind was altered, or that they were incredibly angry.
The image of these grandparents who took in this problem child, the image of them running from her, probably holding their hands up to stop the knife from going in their bodies, it's one of the worst things I can imagine.
Holly and Sandy have checked off part 1 of their brutal to-do list. They quickly run through the next 3 items. Keys, money, jewelry. It seems organized, but young killers are still children. They rarely think beyond impetuous short-term goals. Their plan cost 2 lives, but soon they run out of ideas.
Holly and Sandy's crime was a reflection of what was going on in their heads, which was pretty much nothing. It was poorly thought out, poorly planned, poorly executed.
They drove over to the friend's house, reported to the friends the reason that they were bloody was that they'd been accosted by someone and had been attacked by someone. But later on, they confess in a very giggly manner that they had actually killed Holly's grandparents.
The friends are horrified. It's not long before police trace their truck and their cell phone calls. Holly and Sandy's dream of a new life of freedom is over.
Holly very much resented authority. She very much resented people who wouldn't let her do whatever she wanted to do.
To criminal profiler Candice DeLong, Holly was sending out all the warning signals of a deadly young woman. If she didn't kill her grandparents, someone else would have felt her fury.
What might she have done later in life if she were not caught to someone who wouldn't share their soda pop with her? Dangerous, dangerous woman.
Broken and remorseful, Sandy Ketchum is jailed for life. Defiant to the very end, Holly Harvey now serves 2 life sentences.
The very thing that she fought against, she is now going to be subjected to for the rest of her life. She has someone telling her when to get up, when to go to bed. She has rules that she has to follow. It is ironic, the very authority that she fought with the colliers that she's subjected to now and will be hopefully for the rest of her life.
Teenage killers rarely act on their own. The same forces that drive them to dress alike can make them kill.
Peer pressure can be a very big factor in a group of people. Oftentimes, kids or adults will do things in a group that they would never do individually.
Peer pressure exploded into bloodshed in Gary, Indiana, in the mid-1980s.
Well, Ruth Pelkey, we called her Nana. That was the affectionate name that the family had for her. She took a real special love for each one of us grandkids, and we were all special to her. And, she treated us all very fair and equal.
Bill Pelkey remembers the kind warmth of his grandmother, Ruth.
Her real love, her real passion was telling Bible stories to young kids. We cut out pictures of Bible characters and she put them up on this a board and tell the stories.
Neighborhood children gather in Mrs. Pelkey's home for her lessons.
It's what she loved to do. And so at the age of 78 years old, it was one more chance for her to share her faith with young people.
Not all her students have such good intentions. In reaching out to help, Mrs. Pelkey has made herself a target.
When these 4 girls knocked on her door and said they want to take Bible lessons, Nana said, come on in.
I've been in this business for almost 35 years as a prosecutor, a judge, and a defense lawyer now. And I've never seen a crime like this where young girls committed such a senseless, heinous act.
Indiana prosecutor Jack Crawford is marked forever by Ruth Pelkey's killing.
Ruth Pelkey was probably one of the nicest persons anyone would ever want to meet. That girls, teenage girls, could decide on a school afternoon to go and murder someone is completely shocking, and it's a case that has never left me, and I'll never forget.
Ruth Pelkey's fate is being shaped by a small gang of teenage girls. Karen Quarters, Denise Thomas, and April Beverly are all classmates. Their leader is 15-year-old Paula Cooper.
Paula Cooper is yet another young killer who came from a horrible, horrible background.
Paula's short life so far is a horror story of drugs and violence.
Father was very abusive. He would do things like, beat her with an electrical cord.
She was in and out of school. She watched her mother being sexually assaulted. All of these things led to a very, very disturbed young woman.
And I think that Paul learned one thing well by the age of 15, that was how to hate.
Paula Cooper's hate is about to erupt.
Paula planned it with 3 other young girls who were high school classmates of hers. And they had had a discussion amongst themselves about places where they thought they could get some money.
Do y'all even have money? You want to go IK, you don't have money? You got money. I don't have money. I didn't got money.
And one of the girls, April Beverly, came up with the idea that she knew a Bible studies teacher in the neighborhood who she thought might have some cash on hand.
Mrs. Pelkey is far from wealthy, but the 78-year-old is trusting and defenseless.
I'm April.
The perfect victim.
Paula Cooper was on a path of destruction. She wanted to kill someone. They chose to kill someone who was helpless, someone they knew they could talk their way into.
Ruth Pelkey opens her door with love in her heart, but she innocently lets in seething hate.
I got a phone call from my brother-in-law. just had gotten off work, and he told me that Nana had died.
Bill Pelkey's Nana is 78-year-old Ruth Pelkey, a gentle grandmother living in a decaying blue-collar town.
Her family had encouraged her to move out because it was a changing neighborhood. But she was so committed to the young people there, she wanted to stay and offer her Bible studies classes to the teenagers in that area, which she did, of course, for free.
In 1985, 4 girls knock on Mrs. Pelkey's door, asking about Bible school. She already knows April Beverly from previous classes. The girls are welcomed in. Schoolgirls from the 9th grade are about to become a pack of killers, led by Paula Cooper.
Paula grabbed a vase and hit Mrs. Pelkey over the head, knocking her to the floor. Paula had brought with her from April's house a 12-inch butcher knife. Paula jumped on her and started demanding to know where the money was. In fact, the quote was, "Where's the money, bitch?"
Where's your money? Where's the money? Where's your money?
The pack mentality has taken over.
The ringleader becomes empowered by the fact that she or he has followers. The mere fact that they're there encourages the ringleader to do bigger, bolder things than they normally would.
Mrs. Pelkey pleads that she doesn't have any money. Paula responds with torture.
Paula started cutting Mrs. Pelkey with the butcher knife. She was cutting her back and forth across her chest. Paula stabbed Mrs. Pelkey in the chest. The evidence was that at some point she started reciting the Lord's Prayer. Obviously, she knew she was going to die.
And it's Paula Cooper who orders her death.
Paula told Karen to push the knife through Mrs. Pelkey's body, which she did. And in fact, the knife made an indentation in the floor. It was a horrendous murder.
Money might have been the apparent motive, but I believe the motive was to kill Ruth Pelkey, and the robbery was incidental. You don't stab someone 33 times because you want their watch. They went there to kill her.
She was on the dining room floor. That's where my father found her body. It's the dining room where our family gathered every year for Christmas and Easter and Thanksgiving and birthdays and happy, joyous occasions. And every time I would think about Nana, I would picture her butchered on that dining room floor, and it was just a terrible, painful thing to even think about Nana.
Mrs. Pelkey built a life on family and trust. Paula Cooper learned to trust no one.
I think the attacks on Ruth Pelkey were so vicious because that's what was in Paula's heart, a rage to destroy something because she had been destroyed so many times in her 15 years on this earth.
The girls leave the house with just $10 and the keys to Mrs. Pelkey's car. Paula leaves her jacket behind.
Check this out.
In the pocket, a prescription for birth control pills with her name on it. Young killers are rarely hard to catch.
Most young people think they're not going to get caught at anything. Shoplifting a candy bar, let alone murder. They tend to think they're smarter than everyone else, and also they tend to not cover up their crime so well. And they're oftentimes surprised when they get caught.
Even more surprised are the residents of Gary.
Once the community realized it was young people and then young girls, there was shock in the community that 4 young teenage girls could commit a crime like this. People couldn't believe it.
Paula Cooper is found guilty of murder. At age 16, she becomes the youngest person ever on Indiana's death row. Her 3 followers get lengthy prison terms. Bill Pelkey felt justice had been done for his grandmother.
I originally supported the death sentence for Paula Cooper.
But after much soul-searching, he finds forgiveness. While Ruth Pelkey's life was taken without mercy, Bill Pelkey campaigns to save her killer.
And I knew I no longer wanted her to die, and I wanted to do whatever I could do to try to help her. And I learned the most important lesson of my life, the healing power of forgiveness. Because when my heart was touched with compassion, forgiveness took place. And it brought a tremendous healing.
After intervention from the Pope and a petition of 2 million signatures, Paula's sentence is commuted to life. Paula Cooper was exactly the kind of child Ruth Pelkey was trying to help. Sparing her life would be Ruth's final gift.
My grandmother did a lot of praying, and she had a special love for young people. So people like Paula Cooper that my grandmother really had a concern for, I'm convinced she would have forgave Paula Cooper.
These deadly women became killers while they were still girls. Scarred by abuse, they were young, impetuous, and dangerous. Haunted by her dark past, Mary Bell killed to take control. Holly Harvey brutally lashed out at authority. And Paula Cooper's boiling hate destroyed an innocent victim. Young girls act on impulse. They don't consider the consequences. And often, they're beyond suspicion. That makes the young bloods some of the deadliest women of all. Some women want more from life than health and happiness.
A 5-letter word that starts with a G and ends with a D. Greed.
A businesswoman makes a deal to die for.
She was calculated, manipulative, and a sick person.
A young bride is in love with her older husband's cash.
He thought he was a lucky guy. He had no idea how unlucky he was.
And a woman loses her man to the sea.
Up until that point, she'd fooled everyone.
These deadly women want the good life at others' expense. They are money hungry. when 40-year-old Abraham Shakespeare wins a massive lottery prize in Lakeland, Florida in 2006. An ordinary man starts an extraordinary adventure.
He took a lump sum payment of $17 million. When Shakespeare won the lottery, the entire community won also.
It says $500,000.
He basically became Lakeland's stimulus package.
Think about that.
Shakespeare was a very, very generous person.
While happy for her son, 65-year-old Elizabeth Walker is wary of the windfall.
Abraham's mother was a wonderful person. Abraham tried to give her money and buy her a new house, and she didn't want it. Abraham's mother thought the money was evil and would bring him no good.
Cheers! $17 million.
Many other people are ready to line up for the generosity of this uneducated but good-natured young man.
He couldn't read or write. If at all, he couldn't do it very well. I don't think he understood the value of money. I think he thought he'll never run out of money.
Abraham's good fortune catches the eye of 35-year-old entrepreneur Doris Dee Moore.
Dee Moore was a blonde, flashy woman. She was very confident, very sure of herself.
Dee Dee's currently got herself a 26-year-old boy toy.
Not now, I'm thinking.
Come on, baby.
But she's always looking for more excitement. And a newly minted millionaire is a person she wants to know.
She presented herself as to be a writer. She offered to write a book. So from there, a friendship budded between the two of them.
But the book is just the start of Dee Dee's deal.
You get tired of people asking for money, Abe?
Yeah, I do.
She offers to manage all of Abraham's financial affairs.
Dee Dee presented herself as someone who wasn't going to be a moocher.
In Abraham's mind, here comes this lady who decides, hey, I'll get this all straightened out for you.
This one here is to close your existing account.
She convinced him to put all of his holdings in her company name, and this was a way for people to stop asking for money from him.
But Dee Dee is far from a savior.
After you start peeling the layers behind of Dee Moore, you start realizing more and more something's not right here.
The smooth-talking businesswoman has a long history of deceit and fraud. One scam 5 years earlier shows how far Dee Dee will go to come out on top. When her car is about to be repossessed, Dee Dee stages a dramatic ruse.
Just up there.
She had called and reported that her vehicle had been carjacked and she had been left for dead by some Mexican guys in a ditch somewhere.
For extra sympathy, Dee Dee claims she is raped.
She was calculated, manipulative, and a sick person.
Dee Moore is the classic textbook definition of a psychopath. Persistent and chronic liar, manipulator of other people. If a psychopath isn't manipulating someone and deceiving and stealing, they're not having any fun.
But naive Abraham knows nothing of her past.
She found him and she knew she could work him. And oh, did she.
Abraham thinks his money is safe from his clawing community because he hands it all to Dee Dee.
Wow, you weren't kidding.
For you, baby.
She had his house, his properties, his cars, Even his bank accounts, everything, I mean everything, was switched into the name of her company that she operated.
While Dee has never been happier, Abraham is worried and anxious.
Man, I'm finna get out. I'm finna go.
The burden of being a multi-millionaire is starting to get to him. He disappears.
Shakespeare talks so much about being aggravated, about people asking him for money. So when he disappeared, people thought to themselves, well, maybe he finally did get tired.
Lakeland now loses its stimulus package. Abraham is no longer around to give anyone his money. No one sees him for months, but his family and friends receive a series of strange texts.
It's Abe. He says it's going away.
Abraham is on a cruise to Jamaica, how Abraham is in Texas. He doesn't want anybody to see him. The stories just never end.
After 9 months, finally, a phone call.
Yeah, Mom. I'm fine.
But something is strange.
His mother said, "Who are you? You're not Shakespeare."
No one knows who it is, except Dee Moore. It's her deep, dark secret. 2009, Lakeland, Florida. After 43-year-old Abraham Shakespeare wins a lottery, everyone wants a handout.
Just don't stop.
When 36-year-old Dee Moore offers to manage his millions, he jumps at the chance.
Congratulations.
But the only person Dee wants to help is herself.
First class all the way.
She's a con woman.
That's my money in your wallet, is how they see the world. And because I'm so much smarter than you, I will get it.
His friends think Abraham is on an extended holiday. Dee knows the truth. Not long after signing over his fortune to her, Abraham becomes suspicious.
It ain't working out.
Everything is good, Abe.
No, it ain't.
Abraham had come to her and said, hey, something's not right. I can't get to my money. You know, what's going on?
Look, man,
April 6th, 2009. Abraham tells Dee he's going to the bank to sort it out. Dee knows if he does, she'll be exposed.
There's a safe inside that house where she tells Abraham all his money is, all the cash is. She opens the safe. Abraham thinks he's gonna get a bunch of money. She doesn't pull out the money, but she pulls a gun out of the safe.
No. Please, no.
And she shoots him twice.
Dee takes the last thing Abraham has left to give. His life.
Abraham Shakespeare was a nice guy. He didn't stand a chance against Dee Moore. Not a chance.
The money is all hers, but it still isn't enough for Dee.
She saw outstanding debts that people owed him as a cash cow. There was probably close to $3 million if she could consistently collect on these monies.
The prospect of easy money is too good to refuse.
Dee went to extreme lengths to make it look as if Shakespeare was alive to his friends and family.
Abraham texts his family and friends from the grave. But one day, Dee Dee goes too far, trying to stage a phone call.
Yeah, Mom, I'm fine. Just needed to get away.
A mother knows her son's voice. She calls the cops.
Abraham's mother called me and said, hey, somebody called that said they were Abraham. I don't know if it was, but it didn't really sound like him.
The police start asking questions. Dee Dee has to protect herself. She needs someone else to take the murder rap and turns to an old friend of Abraham's for help.
I've got a lot more cash for someone who'll say they killed Abraham.
She says, I need to find somebody who is willing to tell the police that they did something to Abraham, that they killed Abraham.
I'll ask around.
I'm willing to pay them.
Dee Dee is introduced to career criminal Mike Smith, a perfect candidate.
Mike Smith is fixing to go to federal prison, has already signed off a plea agreement for 25 years, and basically he can't get any more time. For a certain amount of money, he would be willing to say that he killed Abraham Shakespeare.
You do this, you'll be a very popular person.
Mike agrees to take the blame, but needs evidence of the murder. Otherwise, he won't be believed.
Where is he? What happened?
Shot him. He's buried in my backyard.
Dee Dee has to hand over the weapon and the location of Abraham's body.
So in Dee Moore's mind, she's just won the game. She's got somebody that's gonna confess to killing Abraham Shakespeare.
But there's one thing Dee Dee doesn't know. Mike Smith is an undercover cop.
Every time he met with her, every time he talked with her, he was wearing a wire.
Did you dig here?
Dee Dee had admitted where the body was located.
Then you gotta burn him.
That was enough for authorities to go in and make an arrest. They had what they needed.
The master of the sting has been stung.
Dee Moore never thought she would get caught.
Don't forget to bring the marshmallows.
Yet, she told the whole story to an undercover cop. Bye-bye now.
On December 10th, 2012, Doris Dee Moore is convicted of first-degree murder and sentenced to life in prison.
I think it was all money, and I think it just came down to the very end that she felt trapped and this was the only way out.
Dee Dee is in prison for the rest of her life, and that is exactly where she needs to be for the rest of us to be safe.
A perfect recipe for marriage.
He's got the prize, the younger woman.
Love, honesty, and respect.
He thought he was a lucky guy. He had no idea how unlucky he was.
In the 1970s, near Louisville, Indiana, newlyweds Anne and David Plew have a loving marriage and the world at their feet.
They both appeared to be happy. Anne appeared to be a really outgoing, happy person, and David appeared to be happy and satisfied to be with her.
David's brother, Raymond Plew, remembers 28-year-old Anne's captivating charm.
Someone that can gain your confidence, make you like them immensely and want to do everything for you. That's the kind of person she was.
A charming personality sounds ideal for Anne's nursing career, but she is more complicated than she seems.
She worked as a registered nurse. She held a supervisory position, which later it appeared that she had fabricated certificates to obtain that position when she wasn't even qualified for it. Anne seemed to be living in a path of lies.
One of her many deceits is 29-year-old Tim.
Tim was friends with Ann Gates from right after high school.
Maybe if I'd married you, I would have been happier.
Marry me, you'll never go hungry again.
He seemed to be a constant in her life.
Put it in.
Despite marrying another man, Anne still enjoys Tim's company.
She was good at manipulating the men in her life.
Tim was like Anne's go-to guy. He would have done anything to marry this woman, and she just kept him on a string the entire time.
Tim is always on call for Anne. Husband David serves a very different purpose. He's her bank.
How are we meant to pay for all that?
It's okay, we'll find a way.
We'll end up in the poorhouse.
And she is quickly draining his accounts.
Anne was motivated by a 5-letter word that starts with a G and ends with a D. Greed, one of the 7 deadly sins.
David doesn't get time to rein in her spending. Within a year of marriage, a terrible tragedy.
It's about as cold-blooded as cold-blooded would be.
Late one evening in 1978, something compels David Plew to the outskirts of Louisville.
I don't know what the reason was that he would get in his car and drive out to meet someone on a country road. I don't know.
Come on, man. Do this. Come on, let's talk about this, boy. You don't need to be doing this. Not out here. Come on, man.
It is the last thing he will ever do.
He was shot twice in the head. He was left alongside of a rural road.
It surprised everybody because as nice a person as David was, and with all of the friends he had, there's no one could name a single person that would be David's enemy.
When a spouse is murdered, police usually look close to home first. But Anne has the perfect alibi. The day before the murder, she checks into the hospital for some elective surgery. Police know she hasn't done it. But David's brother thinks her behavior is odd.
After David's death, there was zero contact with Anne. She did not appear at the funeral home or at the grave services. There wasn't even a bouquet of flowers in the funeral home with her name on them.
Anne is a wealthy widow. She is the sole beneficiary of David's assets, including his life insurance.
David Plew had a personal insurance policy of $80,000+.
Anne moves on with her life. She's got another wedding to plan.
This woman, she did whatever she wanted to do.
Come on, man.
In Louisville, Indiana, Anne Gates's husband, David, is murdered, execution style, in 1978. Anne isn't a widow for long. She remarries 7 months later.
I'd love to carry over the threshold, honey, but it's my back.
But not her teen sweetheart, Tim. Anne chooses an older man, bookkeeper, 56-year-old Raymond Gates.
He's much older than Anne. Maybe to her he's a sugar daddy, but to him, he's got the prize, the younger woman.
You can buy whatever you like, darling.
Anne's need for love comes a distant second to her need for money.
There's no indication that Anne Gates truly loved the men that she married.
The new bride introduces Raymond to old friends, including Tim.
Darling, to us.
She had no qualms about bringing Tim to the house when Raymond was home.
What this proves to me is that Anne is the puppet master. She's running the whole show. She's got all these men on a string, and she's pulling them.
Anne spends as little time as she can at the marital home. She moves between her parents' home and living with a new boyfriend.
Why? I just need some space.
She would live there 2 days. She would live with the boyfriend 2 days. I guess because of his age, whatever she told him, he believed. He accepted that.
He thought he was a lucky guy. He had no idea how unlucky he was.
For nearly 9 years, Anne lives out her fantasy. A husband she hardly ever sees, and the freedom to do what she wants. But then, on October 7th, 1987, when she visits the marital home,
I've just found my husband murdered.
Anne was calm, collected. Here's her husband, blood all around him. You know what? You can't fake caring about people.
She said she went inside. She saw Raymond on the floor, dead, with multiple wounds to the head.
So he's lying on the floor, and there's dried blood around him, which means he's been there for a while, and he has several blows to the head.
What time was it you discovered your husband, ma'am?
the grieving widow is not the most reliable witness.
Did you notice any sign of break and entry when you came home or anything missing at all?
The more you questioned her, the more the story changed.
Anne tells so many lies to law enforcement, they don't even know where to begin.
Anne tells police she hasn't been at the house for days.
But a mailman comes forward and he claims that he saw her car in the driveway in those crucial days before the body was discovered.
Anne lies to the police. Now she is placed at the murder scene. Investigators believe they know what happens.
Investigators uncover that he's been hit in the head with a long object. Lo and behold, the fire poker's missing from the house.
A fire poker is heavy. It's made of metal. It delivers a large amount of concentrated force to a very small area. It would very quickly cave in the skull.
Investigators believe the motive is a familiar one: money.
Just a few months before he was murdered, he took out a life insurance policy on himself and made her the beneficiary.
It is a circumstantial case, but on December 8, 1987, Ann Gates is arrested and charged with first-degree murder. Facing a lifetime behind bars, Ann makes a deal with the DA's office for the lesser charge of manslaughter. Her bargaining chip is she claims the murderer is her teen sweetheart, Tim.
She struck this deal by offering Tim as the murderer, Raymond Gates.
Ann didn't love anybody but Ann.
She says Tim murdered her husband in her presence.
According to Ann, she had no part of that other than cleaning up the evidence.
Tim stands trial for second-degree murder. It ends in a hung jury. He walks free.
She was good at manipulating the men in her life, but she was not as good of a liar as she believed that she was.
Ann Gates doesn't face a jury. She pleads no contest to the manslaughter of Raymond and is sentenced to 10 years.
Ann was originally charged with first-degree murder. That's premeditated. Ann got off lucky.
For Raymond Plew, Ann's conviction reopens old wounds of the cruel death of his brother, David. The shooting of her first husband has never been solved.
No one has been punished for David's death. Ann evidently served some small bit of prison time for someone else's death, but no one's been punished for David's death, and may never be.
In 1993, Ann Gates is released on supervised parole.
There was a storm inside of Ann, a storm of chaos.
For some women, finding a man
She was obviously a quite sexy woman.
Is as easy as ABC. But keeping them is another matter.
He had been shot at close range.
Moreton Bay, off the coast of Brisbane, Australia. For 8 years, 44-year-old Patricia Byers and live-in boyfriend Carl Gutkins enjoy a comfortable life by the sea.
They had water in common, boats in common. They were yachties, boaties, champagne, high living, all of that sort of stuff.
The ocean brings them together, but also drives them apart. Carl's work as a marine engineer means he is constantly traveling.
Carl led an itinerant sort of life, probably like a lot of seamen.
You're going to Thailand?
Just for a few days on the way back.
But when he organizes a private holiday to Thailand, simmering tensions begin to boil.
The state of their relationship was clearly beginning to fall apart.
Being left alone for weeks is hard for a woman who likes to be the center of attention.
Patricia Byers was the life of the party. She was obviously a quite sexy woman.
Well, get you a coffee?
Yeah, thanks.
I can get you more than that.
Lonely Patricia finds a friend at work. Fellow insurance salesman, 49-year-old John Asquith.
She had quite a fancy for a guy that she worked with. He recognised that there was an attraction between him and Patricia, but he refused to do anything about it. So there was an honour in this man.
While John protects Patricia's honour, across the seas in Thailand, her boyfriend Carl falls for an Asian delight. In fact, within days of meeting her, he proposes.
He met a Thai woman He seemed to have developed an affection for her very quickly. He told her that he wanted to marry her and to leave Patricia Byers.
Patricia is devastated. She is not just losing her longtime partner, but his income and assets.
Carl made it very clear to her that she was going to get very little once Carl had actually left and gone to Thailand.
She was about to lose the yacht, the house, and everything that went with the lifestyle.
The only silver lining in her cloud of grief is her office infatuation. John Asquith.
John, it's me.
Now that she's a single woman, there is nothing stopping them getting together.
Thank you.
Almost immediately, she turns to him for comfort and support, and within a very short space of time, this relationship turns into one of love.
So, here's to the happy couple.
John is hooked, enamored. He soon intertwines his life and money with Patricia.
John and Patricia move in together.
It seems that the relationship between Byers and Asquith was a good one. He did love her and believed that he could trust her.
For the next 3 years, Patricia forgets about her unfaithful partner, Carl. She's too busy enjoying her relationship with John, the security of his income, and their love of the sea. They often spend the night on the beautiful waters of Australia's Stradbroke Island, as they do on April 13th, 1993. It's their anniversary.
John and Patricia have been together for 3 years. They go away for a romantic weekend.
This is the perfect time. I can make it even better.
They had stopped the boat, had something good to eat, had a good drink, had sex. He went to sleep.
John wakes up feeling a little strange, and he realises he has blood. He's got blood on himself and that he's bleeding from the head.
John has no idea he has just been shot in the head.
John Asquith had been shot at close range in the forehead, single shot from a sawn-off .22 caliber rifle.
Incredibly, the bullet hasn't killed him. It's missed the vital parts of his brain.
He was lucky that the gun had been cut down because that reduced the muzzle velocity.
Confused and disoriented, John's first thoughts are for Patricia.
He gets up and stumbles out of the cabin.
He finds his lover on deck, equally dazed but not wounded.
She claimed that pirates had boarded the boat and they'd been responsible for the injury to Asquith.
Pat! What happened?
Someone hit me in the neck.
It is a shocking attack that has the victims and the whole Brisbane community in a state of disbelief.
Although tourist boats are often boarded by pirates in the Pacific region, it is not something that they normally do in the beautiful waters off Stradbroke Island.
But the strangest part is that the pirates steal nothing. Something doesn't add up.
The whole situation was highly suspicious.
Soon the truth will be told and will reveal a perpetrator more frightening than any pirate. 47-year-old Patricia Byers' love of the ocean is proving unlucky. Her sailor boyfriend, Carl Gotkins, leaves her for a beautiful young woman in Thailand. And in April 1993, modern-day pirates storm her boat, shooting her new de facto, John Asquith, in the head. 52-year-old John miraculously survives, but doesn't remember what happened.
The police were very suspicious right from the very beginning.
Police aren't buying the pirate story. Nothing is stolen, and only one of the victims is shot. Their attention turns to Patricia, who doesn't have a scratch.
As the investigations develop, that the evidence begins to mount against her.
They find John is worth a small fortune if he's dead.
Patricia Byers had in fact taken out several life insurance policies for John and forged his signatures to do so.
Patricia was cool, calm, and collected. And above all, she was patient.
Alone on the open sea is the perfect location for Patricia's plan.
What really happened that night is Patricia retrieved the sawn-off gun that she had hidden on the boat. She held it to her lover's head and pulled the trigger.
She thinks the shot will be fatal, but the short barrel of the sawn-off gun lessens the bullet's impact. John survives, much to the horror of Patricia. She is forced to come up with this ridiculous explanation.
It's not a plausible story. It was a matter of some humour amongst the prosecutors in my office at the time.
Patricia denies everything, but in 1994, a jury convicts her of attempted murder and sentences her to 12 years. But that isn't the end of the story. The fate of her previous partner comes under scrutiny.
Carl Gottchen's family started asking questions.
They haven't heard from Carl in 4 years, since his move to Thailand.
Patricia managed to convince everybody that he had not only left her, but that he had decided to cut all ties with family and friends and start a completely new life.
Or did he? Police travel to Thailand. They can't find Carl, but they do find his girlfriend, Oi, who hasn't seen him since he proposed to her.
He was meant to get on a plane about the 6th of July of 1990. He never got on that plane, and Oi never saw him again.
Now, Carl's disappearance turns into a murder investigation, and all roads lead to Patricia.
All Carl Gottchen's bank accounts were plundered. His credit cards were plundered. And all that happened within a period of a few months after he disappeared.
A forensic team goes to the last place Carl is seen alive, the home he shared with Patricia 4 years earlier.
They find forensic traces, tiny blood spatters in master bedroom. By DNA connections, it was most definitely blood of Carl Gottchen's.
There's a lot in the evidence that points to the conclusion that he was shot whilst he was in bed.
Patricia thought she was more clever than the police. Fortunately, she wasn't. DNA is pretty much forever.
The big question is, where is Carl's body? Only Patricia knows, and she is denying everything.
There were many theories about what Byers had done with the body. They could have gone out onto the bay where she dropped Carl's body, weighted down into the bay.
She probably would have gotten away with murder, but she wanted more and more and more. And every time a criminal commits a crime, they're closer and closer to being caught.
Patricia is convicted again, this time of murder.
The jury was convinced, beyond a reasonable doubt, she killed him.
In 1999, Patricia is sentenced to life, no chance of parole, without her beloved ocean and the perks of rich partners.
Patricia loved men for what they could do for her financially. The fun for Patricia in life was taking advantage of men.
These deadly women shared a greedy streak. Dee Moore took everything from a kind soul, including his life. Ann Gates' seductive ways masked lethal intentions, and Patricia Byers proved she was the real pirate. All three women used their charms to earn trust until their true desire was revealed. They were money hungry. Youth and baby-faced looks can mask a girl's true intentions.
I had time to think about it.
A devoted daughter is too obedient.
She would do anything for him.
A very beautiful woman.
She didn't know what a monster he really was.
Where the hell have you been?
Out with my friends.
A rebellious teen thinks Halloween should be a real horror.
That mind is so twisted, so dark, that anything is possible.
And the pastor's daughter is no angel.
The most cold-blooded murderer I've ever prosecuted.
These deadly women look too young to do harm, but they are lethal teens. Garden Grove, California, 1985.
Need to check on my wife. I think she's been shot.
In the early hours of March 19th, the police are called to a suburban tragedy.
She's down the hallway.
Sir, wait here. Just wait here.
As I nudged the door open of the darkened room, I saw Linda Brown lying on the bed.
23-year-old Linda Brown, the mother of a baby girl, is shot dead in her bed.
To just be sleeping and to be shot twice in the chest, it was kind of hard to see.
Listen, yeah, scout.
Linda's husband, David, is out of the house at the time of the murder. But her 17-year-old sister, Patty, who lives with them, is home.
Do you know who did this?
You have to tell him, Patty.
Patty not only hears the shots, she knows who the killer is.
It was Cinnamon.
My daughter.
Patty was awakened by a gunshot, and she saw who she believed was Cinnamon Brown running by and out the back door.
Thank you.
The hit-style killing is committed by a 14-year-old, David's daughter, Cinnamon. Police search the neighborhood for the teen killer. But the next morning, they find her closer to home.
I found her.
One of the detectives spots her leg sticking out of the doghouse.
She's alive. Call an ambulance.
She has vomited up this concoction.
Racked with guilt, Cinnamon tries to commit suicide by swallowing painkillers.
Also in the doghouse was a note she had written, which stated basically, "Please forgive me for what I have done."
Police have an open and shut case.
She confesses to the crime. She takes responsibility for it.
In August 1987, Cinnamon pleads guilty to first-degree murder. She is sentenced to 11 years in a California youth authority. Case closed. Or is it?
The detectives who originally came into the case just thought there's probably a lot more to this story than we've yet uncovered.
For 3 years, detectives work on earning Cinnamon's trust. Finally, they tell her something that breaks her silence.
David had married Linda Brown's sister, Patty Bailey. They had a child together and moved into a beautiful home.
She suddenly became aware that she'd been used by her father, and used horribly.
Cinnamon is ready to tell the truth. 5 years earlier, Linda has a charmed life. A new baby girl, and her sister living with her. Husband David is a successful computer programmer, earning good money. Enough to support them all, and his own daughter from a previous marriage, Cinnamon.
I'm making lunch soon. I don't want any. I'm going out. She hates me.
No, she doesn't.
Everyone's happy except Cinnamon.
Gotta go shopping. Wanna come? No, I think I'll stay here. Have fun.
2 years after marrying Linda, David's eye turns to a younger woman. Linda's teen sister, Patty.
You're a very beautiful woman, Patty.
Patty's the next in line to be the new Mrs. David Brown and to live in a nice house and to have financial resources and all of that.
Cinnamon watches her father's affections move from his wife to her 17-year-old sister.
Cinnamon.
Cinnamon was very shocked.
Cinnamon, it's not what it looks like.
What is it then?
She saw, even at 14, all, the complexity of this and the trouble this could cause.
Please, you can't tell Linda.
David has a big problem, but he thinks he has the solution.
We had time to think about it.
Dad, I don't know.
David starts planting the seed with Cinnamon and Patty that Linda was going to have him killed.
If you love me, you would do this.
Okay, I'll think about it.
Okay, do that for me. Please.
David was very persuasive, and he took advantage of that and used it to manipulate them to get what he wanted.
Now, come on, tuck in.
February 1985. Garden Grove, California. "17-year-old Patty Bailey is about to murder her sister in her own bed. She's been deluded into thinking she is saving her lover's life. David claims his wife, Linda, is planning to kill him.
He gave her the gun, he told her how to muffle it in a pillow, and sent her up to the bedroom to shoot her sister Linda.
But that's as far as it went. She could not do the actual deed. After David saw that Patty could not follow through with this, he began working more on Cinnamon.
Again, David asks a teen to do his dirty work. This time, his 14-year-old daughter, Cinnamon.
Okay? Now it's heavy. You've got to grip it tight, okay? I need to point it.
Linda isn't the only person David wants his daughter to shoot.
So when you've done it, I want you to shoot yourself.
No way!
No, it's only to try to make it look like you've killed yourself.
Yeah.
When Cinnamon refuses to shoot herself, Dad suggests pills.
Come here, put that gun down. Hold out your hand.
Cinnamon would take some painkillers and leave a suicide note.
Okay, come on. Take them now.
But there wouldn't be enough medicine to really hurt her.
Take the gun. You can do this, okay? You can do this. Sit down. Now wait for a few minutes.
David leaves the home, confident his daughter will do his bidding.
David Brown was a master manipulator of young girls. He could get them to pretty much do anything.
And poor Cinnamon believed this was the only way she could save her father's life.
David gave her a blanket to use as a silencer.
And shot Linda in the chest.
She was gurgling and dying.
Cinnamon takes aim a second time.
The gun has jammed. So she gives the gun over to Patty.
What did you do? I don't know. What's wrong with it?
As they tried to disengage this blanket from the gun accidentally went off.
Go!
Unjams the gun, and Cinnamon goes back down the hall. And shoots Linda once again.
I have seen men who are willing to defile young girls. I have seen parents who are willing to manipulate their children. But Dave Brown was kind of special because he had it all in one package.
But revenge will be sweet.
Cinnamon.
After 3 years in prison, Cinnamon gets disturbing news.
How are you, sweetie?
Police tell her the overdose pills should have killed.
Why'd you make me do it, Dad?
Her father wanted her dead.
David's intent was to have Cinnamon die, and there would be no witnesses to this crime.
This was the only way we'll ever be a family again. I thought you understood that.
No, I do.
Cinnamon's wearing a wire. David's own words prove his guilt. He and new wife Patty are arrested.
Excuse me, Mr. Brown.
I would like you to come down to the station and answer a few questions.
Patty confirmed everything that Cinnamon had said.
Patty Bailey pleads guilty to first-degree murder and is sentenced to a California youth authority until the age of 25. She is released in 1993. David Brown is convicted of first-degree murder. He is sentenced to life. No chance of parole.
The judge told David Brown that he made Charlie Manson look like a good guy because Charlie Manson didn't use blood relatives to commit his murders.
In 1992, Cinnamon Brown is paroled at age 21.
The thing that struck me most about the case is the ability of a parent to influence a child for good or evil. And we saw the evil acted out here.
Cinnamon bears some responsibility for this. Of course, she pulled the trigger, and she did it twice. But David was the puppeteer.
Halloween, a day of harmless pranks and costumes.
She was wearing weird makeup and stuff like that, painting her fingernails black.
A time to indulge demons.
Page after page of spells and curses and charms.
And dark forces.
Some of the darkest, evilest things you can imagine.
A busy weeknight in Hagerstown, Maryland, 2006.
Hi, honey.
Dad's home. Hey. So I didn't A my biology assignment.
Billy Black and his family come together to share their day.
He was very loving and caring. He would ask the kids how their day went and how my day went.
On another date.
His family come first.
Where he takes all the girls.
Teenage daughter, Danielle, is the apple of her daddy's eye.
We talk about a girl in junior high who was getting A's, getting B's, playing the trumpet. She was a good girl.
A dedicated student until she hits high school. Then everything changes. Danielle is drawn into the insular world of goth. Now she follows their rules, not her family's.
She just told her daddy all kinds of lies, and he just couldn't trust her no more.
What her parents don't know that she's doing are some of the darkest, evilest things you can imagine.
Danielle's rebellion is now experimenting with erotic extremes.
Danielle loved nothing better than to cut herself while having sex and to drink that blood. Now, what does that tell you about this 15-year-old's mind? It tells you that that mind is so twisted, so dark, that anything is possible.
Good luck with that.
Her father is desperate.
Where the hell have you been?
Out with my friends.
Why didn't you?
He said, I don't know what's wrong with her. He said, I try to help her, but she don't want my help.
Off of my arm.
Billy was just being a good father. He was putting borders, guidelines, and restrictions on a young teenage girl.
15-year-old Danielle is slipping from her father's grasp. And everything he does to try and get her back leads to more resentment.
I think she hated him.
He pushed me through a window.
No way.
And then he locked me out of the house for hours.
That's so wrong, man.
At school, she tells outrageous lies about her father.
I don't know how you could live with that.
I can't. Not for much longer.
Danielle set out on a path to destroy her father's reputation, to make it look like he was victimizing her, brutalizing her, and beating her.
Hey, 7 then.
It was all lies.
Her friends buy her story, but one takes a special interest. Fellow goth, Alec Agar. He comes from an abusive background.
I know what it's like to feel helpless.
Alec was damaged goods. He had been sexually violated by more than one person when he was a young boy.
All I could think about was protecting her.
Around town, Alec is known as the Protector.
You gotta protect those that can't protect themselves, right?
This is exactly what Danielle was looking for. Alec was the bomb, and Danielle lit the fuse.
a depraved bonfire party in Hagerstown, Maryland, in the fall of 2008. Danielle Black has befriended tough guy Alec Agar, and she knows exactly how to push his buttons.
Danielle begins to hear these stories from Alec that he was an abused child. So what does she do? She uses that, spins it for her own benefit.
Your dad did this to you?
Yeah.
I can't let this happen to you.
He was going to confront Mr. Black about this and put an end to it.
So you'll help me?
Yeah.
In Alec's eyes, Billy Black becomes this monster that needs to be taken off the face of the earth.
October 31st, 2008. Billy Black is up bright and early.
Oh, I made you a tea.
No time, honey. I'm running late for work. Bye. Love you.
Love you too.
Danielle has planned a Halloween the family will never forget.
He came in and kissed me and told me he loved me and left, and that's the last I seen of him.
He walks out the door that day to what? To Alec waiting for him.
This was not an easy murder. Alec was really killing someone else. Alec saw Billy as every man who had ever hurt him in the past. And he was going to make Billy pay for the sins of others.
Danielle was watching out the window when he was murdered. She wanted her father killed because he wouldn't let her do what she wanted to.
What's going through Danielle's mind at that moment was everything that I planned for, everything that I want in life. It's gonna happen now.
Alec tries to cover his tracks by making the murder look like a mugging gone wrong. When police discover the body, they are stumped.
Billy Black was a person that was known to be a hardworking person, that he was known not to have any enemies. His wallet was missing, so robbery was a potential motive. But at that point, it's truly a whodunit.
I was just destroyed. I didn't know what to think. How could this happen? What am I going to do without him?
Danielle's secret stays between her and her father's killer until she lets something slip at the funeral.
Here's her daddy laying dead, and she said, now I can laugh. She said, but I got to behave myself for a while.
Police find out Danielle has asked others to kill for her.
It depends.
I'm asking you as a friend.
The school chums had heard her talk about, wanting someone to kill her father.
Forget it.
While you don't want to think of a 15-year-old girl as a suspect in a murder, there weren't any others.
It is not long before Alec is questioned.
The most important evidence against Alec Ager came from Alec Ager himself. They offered him a polygraph, and he agreed to take it, and he confessed.
Alec Agar is convicted of first-degree murder and sentenced to life in prison. Danielle is found guilty of murder, but the verdict is overturned. In 2012, Danielle pleads guilty to solicitation of murder and is sentenced to life, with all but 6 years commuted.
There's only one person responsible for the murder of Billy Black, and that's his daughter, his own flesh and blood.
Danielle is now eligible for parole in 2015.
She's a very cold-hearted person. She has no remorse. And she doesn't care about anybody.
She ran into a young, troubled man that thought he was protecting her. He's serving life in prison. In the end, it was beauty that killed the beast.
For some teenage girls,
where have you been?
Rebelling is a part of life.
She had a problem with her mother telling her what to do.
Look what I've got.
But when defiance turns criminal,
she's committed a very terrible, very violent act.
Lives are changed forever. In 1996, Denver, Colorado.
Rise and go.
Pastor Madeline Toombs can reach most of her congregation.
Let's get out of here. Shh, girl, behave yourself.
But not her daughter, 16-year-old Jennifer.
Comes to us through our eyes.
Jennifer Toombs was an out-of-control teenager. She was definitely a behavioral issue with her mom.
Sometimes unwilling.
Madeline adopted Jennifer as a baby.
Make room for her.
She was a loving mother to this child that she'd adopted at a young age.
And you have to find
Madeline tries to tame the wild in her daughter.
Where have you been?
Out.
I warned you. The next time you did this, you'll be grounded. Now go to your room.
Madeline tried to be strict with her daughter, tried to impose discipline.
Jennifer resisted. She wanted to do what she wanted to do.
Jennifer wants revenge.
Jennifer was very upset by her mother's actions and attempted to and even partially set the bedroom on fire.
She had virtually no impulse control. She was angry, and she wanted to destroy something.
Jennifer isn't just defiant at home.
Jennifer! Jennifer!
She skips school, starts drinking alcohol, and stealing cars.
Yes! Go, go, go!
As a teenager, Jennifer exhibited all the behaviors that would lead someone to believe she was headed for very serious trouble.
Her life of crime comes to a screaming halt when she is arrested for car theft. Jennifer is released on probation, but she can't go far.
Part of her juvenile probation included a curfew that was being monitored with an electronic monitoring device, an ankle bracelet.
Being on confinement was like being in prison, and she was going to get out.
Jennifer sees a chance of freedom. Mom Madeline is going on a weekend church retreat.
Her mother was leaving town. When Jennifer found that out, she planned a party.
But the pastor is one step ahead of her daughter.
Obviously, when you have a daughter who gets in trouble as much as Jennifer did, she wasn't going to leave her at home by herself.
Madeline arranges for close family friend, 23-year-old LaTanya Lavallee, to stay with Jennifer.
Of course I will.
I can't trust her.
LaTanya's family was very involved with the Toombs family. Her stepfather was an associate pastor in the church, so the two families were very close.
On September 27th, 1996, Madeline leaves LaTanya in charge.
Any problems, call me.
We'll be fine.
The two girls are more than good friends. They think of each other as family.
Be a good girl.
She will.
They were so close that Jennifer referred to Tanya as her cousin.
Jennifer, I know what you're up to.
But it doesn't mean Jennifer can do what she wants.
That party that you're planning, it's not gonna happen. It's just a couple of people.
LaTanya says no to the party
here,
plans.
No, it's not happening.
Jennifer despised authority. And that night, LaTanya had the authority, but she didn't have the respect. Jennifer respected no one.
September 27th, 1996. Denver, Colorado. LaTanya Lavallee is babysitting a family friend. She is expecting a quiet night. But 16-year-old Jennifer Toombs, already on home detention, has other plans.
They were told, "You got to keep your voices down." When they asked why, Jennifer told them, "Well, my babysitter is still here. Her boyfriend is going to be over to pick her up, but for right now, we have to be really quiet."
Good.
A secret party isn't enough for Jennifer.
Oh, yeah, right. I'll be back in a minute.
She wants the run of the house and goes to confront LaTanya in the basement.
She then went and again asked Tanya if she could have this party,
Oh, hey, girl. Are you gonna let me have a party?
and Tanya said no.
Come on, just sit down and watch some TV with me.
It's the wrong answer.
When Jennifer wanted something, she wanted it, and she wanted it now.
And there is one way that she can get it.
Look what I've got.
With a handgun.
For real. That's cool.
Her friends think she's just fooling around.
She walked down to the bottom level where LaTanya was watching television.
She took the .25 caliber handgun with her. She shot LaTanya 5 times.
She died instantly.
She was sending her a message. How dare you tell me what to do? You're dead.
She then closed the door to the room where nobody could see her and went back to continue her party.
Oh, that is. Tanya's gone out to a nightclub, so we've got one of the house. Oh.
Yeah, man.
That's
it. I know what that is.
Thank you.
She's a stone-cold psychopath and felt nothing about killing LaTanya. No empathy, no remorse, nothing.
"4:30 a.m. The party is over. But one friend, 15-year-old Tiffany, stays the night.
Once everybody else was gone and Tiffany fell asleep, that's when Jennifer started trying to clean up.
But you can't wash away the mess of 5 bullets to the head. Jennifer comes up with another plan. A break-in.
Oh my God.
Tiffany was asleep. Jennifer woke her up,
Come on. What? Get up.
pretending to be in a panic, and said LaTanya's dead.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
The only story left was to say that some unknown person came in the house and did it.
I think we should call someone.
Tiffany calls her parents. The police soon arrive. Jennifer sticks to her story. An intruder did it. But she admits the strangest thing, that she tries to clean up the killer's mess before she calls the police.
If an intruder breaks into your house and kills somebody, you don't try to clean up after them.
When the police talk to the party guests, Jennifer's gun-toting ways are exposed.
The people recall hearing some popping noises, thought it might be firecrackers.
All the evidence points to Jennifer.
She tried to cover up this brutal murder in a manner a 16-year-old kid would do it. There's no planning, there's no thinking. It was just kind of off the top of her head.
Jennifer didn't think things through, or she simply didn't care.
On April 4th, 1997, Jennifer Toombs is convicted of first-degree murder and sentenced to life in prison. No chance of parole. That anyone could kill a close friend just to have a party defies belief. To this day, it's a mystery.
I don't know if anyone ever got the full picture of Jennifer Toombs.
I've prosecuted serial killers, rapists that killed people. Jennifer Toombs is the most cold-blooded murderer I've ever prosecuted. She killed Tanya like she was taking out the laundry. I mean, it was nothing to her.
Some kids act bad to get attention or make a statement. And some kids just are bad.
These deadly women had innocent looks, but hard hearts. Cinnamon Brown's obedience stole a life. Danielle Black traded a parent for freedom. And Jennifer Toombs killed a close friend for a party. These deadly women hid a turmoil deep within. When exposed, they became lethal teens.